Man, anytime we got a white Ducati on a first ride, you know it's going to be a good time. What's going on, everybody? Chaseontwowheels here at Mountain Motorsports in Roswell. In front of us, we have a 2022 Ducati Super Sport 950S. This is the S model. This is the upgraded suspension and all that good stuff. It is used. It's got about 5,000 miles on it, and it looks like the only modification that the previous owner added were these risers for the clip-ons made from Ducati. But other than that, we look like we got a stock Super Sport 950S. So today should be a good day. Before we get started, let's see what it looks like and let's see what it sounds like. And guys, before we get too far into it, this video is not sponsored, but it is supported by WBRgarage.com. If you guys want to win motorcycles that the guys and I build, you can do that for as little as $5, and it super helps the channel out. So we really appreciate any of you guys that click over there and check it out and potentially win one of our motorcycles. All right, guys, it is time to head out of here. Got a little quad lock on the little clip on. By the way, right before I turned the GoPro on, guys, a Jeep got smashed over here. So I'm going to try to get out of here before the cops come. Let's get this bike cranked up. We love it. We do have modes. We're going to go ahead and we've got sport, touring, and urban. We're going to get in urban mode to start the video. Guys, as you can see, I'm 5'10", I got a 32-inch inseam, and I have super bent legs. I got no problem flat-footing this motorcycle. Bo, you want to say hey to yourself? Okay, bye.
What happened here?
A little bug? Yeah, I saw that. All right, let's go ride a Ducati. We always love these. So guys, before we get too far into the first ride, I do want to invite you to check out our Discord server. We got a Discord server full of motorcycle enthusiasts just like yourself. So if you're a fan of Discord and want to check it out, we'd love to have you over there. There'll be a link in the description. Alrighty, it is that time, ladies and gentlemen. 2022 Ducati Super Sport. Woohoo! In urban mode. This bike is too held back in urban mode. So guys, Ducati's been making the Super Sport for quite a while. It's never really been super on my radar. I've never been a giant fan of them, but I've got to say they keep refining them, and I think this is the first model that I can say that it actually catches my eye. I think they're bringing all of the Panigale design into this now, like hardcore, and I'm loving the way it looks, so I can't wait to see how it does on this first ride. So guys, starting off, let's talk about body position. As you guys could see when we were getting on the motorcycle, this thing has a massive seat, and it is super comfortable. It holds me in my place. I don't feel like I can really scoot around too much. I got a little bit of wiggle room, but this seat is massive. It's comfy. Now, as far as the body position, my legs are about medium level on like crunched. My body is, my upper half at least, is leaned forward only slightly. I imagine if I didn't have those clip-ons, I would have a little more forward lean, and it would put me in a slightly more aggressive body position. I'm not a huge fan of how upright I am right now. I mean, I'm sure the previous owner wanted it to be more comfortable, which is probably why they added those risers. I kind of wish it was stock. I kind of wish I was leaned forward a little bit. So if I was judging this motorcycle for what it comes as, like, you know, stock, I think it comes stock great. I don't really like being as leaned up. Are the brakes kind of on and off? That's strange. We are at this red light, guys, so I'm going to hold that button, and then we're going to change from urban to touring. You can see the settings for urban there. We'll go to touring, and I'll go ahead and show you guys what sport looks like, but we're not going to get to that yet. We're going to stick in touring mode first. We love the menus. The screen's a little smaller, but I don't really I'm not worried about that. The screen seems fine. You guys know I love the screens on Ducatis. And what I'm really happy to see about this one, if you guys are First Ride fans, you probably saw the Street Fighter V2 First Ride a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago, whenever we release it. The gas gauge here on the Super Sport, we have a gas gauge on the top left, and the Street Fighter V2 had no gas gauge. So now I'm super curious why the Street Fighter V2 doesn't have this this screen. That's kind of strange to me, but it is what it is. Another thing about the modes, guys, that's really cool that I freaking love is all of the modes on the Super Sport 950S are customizable. So you can go into the menu and change the power for each mode. So if you want to kind of customize it, you can do that. I love that Ducati does that. I feel like it really allows you to customize the motorcycle for you. And the menus are pretty extensive, but in my experience kind of going through them, they're very user-focused. You can have no idea how to do it, and you can go in the menu, and it's very easy to figure out how to change what you need to change. Love Ducati for that. I love the way they do that stuff, and I will continue to give them praise as long as they are the class leaders in that stuff. I don't know what's up with the brakes on this thing. It kind of pulsates. It's very strange. So guys, on these city streets, since we're stuck in traffic, let's talk about the balance of the motorcycle. I kind of want handlebars on this thing because these clip-ons, I'm very close in on the bike. But that being said, the bike's doing a phenomenal job. I think the balance is really great. I'm, able to stay in this traffic, go really slow speeds, and I feel like I've got a good balance of the bike. I've got no problems with it. I'm also, I don't think I mentioned this when I was talking about the body position, but I do feel very sat into the motorcycle, so as opposed to sitting on top of the bike, and that helps me keep my balance kind of centered, and it makes me able to easily control where the bike's going, especially at these low speeds. Another cool thing is when I come to a stop, here, I have a very easy transition to get my foot to the ground. Which is nice for a bike that you're probably going to ride around town a lot. I love that. That's why I harp on balance when we talk about these bikes, because you're going to be in a situation with this bike where you're riding around town. It has a really good engine for that. If you don't have balance and the bike's hard to control at slow speeds, that can become a problem. I don't think you're going to have that problem with this bike. So guys, while we're cruising around town, I can touch on the differences between the Super Sport 950 and the 950S. We are on the S model. Primarily, I know that the upgrades are going to include Öhlins front and rear suspension. You're going to get that seat cowl in the back, and it is going to remove the passenger pegs. Obviously, with that rear seat cowl, you have no need for passenger pegs. There might be a few other little odds and ends added, but I generally think those are the primary things, is the suspension. As far as engine goes, I think I mentioned earlier, we have a Tester Stretta engine in this thing. It's a 937cc L-twin that is putting out about 110 horsepower and 69 foot-pounds of torque. Pretty decent power numbers depending on the types of bikes you're looking into. If you're looking into some of those high-level super sports, those numbers are probably not going to blow you away. I think it's ample power for where I feel like this bike would be great at, which is here in the city, riding around in traffic, kind of being your daily driver Ducati, which is kind of a weird statement, a daily driver Ducati, but this bike seems to be good at that. Are we going to get to go? Maybe? Oh, are we? Oh, am I? Oh, he is. With this bike, we also have Bosch ABS, cornering, traction control, all that good stuff. You are teched out the wazoo on this thing, which for 17 grand, you better be. So guys, while we're stopped at this red light, I'm gonna lean the bike back and forth, kind of get a feel for it. This bike is the weight-wise, this bike is super controllable, man. The low seat height, so I've got plenty of leg to hold the bike up. And the bike only weighs 403 pounds, so it's lighter than the SV650 that I rode a couple weeks ago that comes in at a weight of 432. I think that's hilarious. I know they have like a trellis frame that mounts to the motor and stuff like that, so that allows these motorcycles to be the CCs that they are and still be relatively light. So as far as power delivery here on the city streets, it's very torquey. It wants to be down low in the revs, which is where it's gonna be punchy. It is a pretty vibrating engine. You guys can see I'm only going, what, 4,000 RPMs, and the mirrors are about as shaky as they can be right now at 4,000 RPM and still be usable. Anything past 4,000, you guys will see this on the highway, these things are a vibrating mess. I don't say this very often, but above 5,000, I don't know if they're usable. Like, I can see that there are cars coming up behind me, but I can barely tell anything else. So a lot of vibration going on, both in my feet and the handlebars, and clearly, like I said, in the mirrors. Not a huge fan of that. I would prefer a much smoother engine. I really love the V2 and the V4. I don't know, I like those engines a lot more. I wish this bike had a V2 in it, but we do not, so we're chilling. Speaking of engines, we're about to get to everybody's favorite section, and that is the highway section. I will put the motorcycle into sport mode, and since we have a red light, I can show you guys what settings sport mode is on, so we can all be clear. Alright, settings mode, ride mode, sport. Alright, oh, this is the menu setting. So you got engine, right? We can click into engine. So we can go to full power, high, medium, low, which is pretty cool. We'll go back. We can go to Ducati traction control, putting it on 1, and it's giving you a red indicator of what you're changing. Love how they have all that menu set up. I'm not going to be able to dig all the way through it. You guys can go like crazy on this thing. But it's super simple. It's super like straightforward of how to do all the things. That's the stuff I'm telling you guys. Ducati does such a good job. I love them for it, and I don't think it can be done better. All right, guys, we're in sport mode. We're on a 2022 Ducati Super Sport 950S. I have not adjusted the suspension on this motorcycle at all, but we are in full power mode, so 40 to 80 pull should be interesting. Also, this motorcycle is kind of a touring super sport, so it should be amazing, right? I have high hopes for this thing for the highway. There's a lot of traffic too. We're gonna have to navigate all that. Let's see what she's got. I imagine this bike's gonna want to be a little lower in the revs to do this. All right, 40 to 80 pull, guys. Let's go. On your mark, get set, go. Oh, all of second gear. Oh, that was awesome. This bike is, that was pretty quick too. This bike is geared perfectly for a 40 to 80 pull. We love a good second gear here on First Rides. Alrighty guys, here on the highway with the Ducati Super Sport. Let's see what this thing's got. Now, as far as wind goes, I'm not getting wind up until about my upper chest. I don't have a problem with the wind at all. I think it's doing totally fine. One of the unfortunate things about this motorcycle is it should be great for touring, and Ducati didn't give it cruise control. Major miss on that one, Ducati. You can have a phenomenal touring bike. Granted, we've got the Multistrada if you really want to tour, and why would you not want to tour on that thing? This could be a great bike too. It just needs cruise control. Now, as far as stability on the highway, this is where I'm kind of noticing that 403 pounds. There's been a couple gusts and I kind of get pushed to the side of the road. So I do wish I felt a little more planted on the motorcycle. As you guys can see in the mirrors, they are shaking all over the place. I don't even know if I'd be able to tell if I had a cop behind me or something like that. Wish there wasn't so much vibration. I got little vibrations in my hand, I got little vibrations in my feet. I don't think it would impair me riding for a longer period of time. So the throttle is not very, it's not a very heavy throttle. So I wouldn't really get tired of holding the throttle open on the highway. But look at those mirrors, man. Look at that. Cars are just blurs. That's not really good. So yeah, guys, overall, I hate that I don't have cruise control, but I don't feel like it's incredibly necessary. I think it would just make it that much better of a touring motorcycle if it had cruise control. If I was going to do a really long tour on this thing, I might look into a different windscreen as well, because I am getting some gusts that are blowing my body around. Another thing that would be solved if we didn't have those risers. All right, guys, we're going to keep it in power mode, sport mode. We're going to keep it in sport mode for this big turn, and hopefully we get a good turn. We haven't got a good turn in a couple weeks. Nope, another slow one. Oh well, bike feels good. I will say, being kind of inside the motorcycle, I don't feel like I have as much clearance to really push the bike over. And I don't think anybody's ever going to have an issue during street riding, but if you were to want to do a track day on this, that might become an issue. And I could be totally wrong. I'm not sure what the lean angle maximum is for this bike, but, you know, just something to keep in mind. So guys, let's jump over to the camera car and see what the guys in the camera car think of the Ducati Super Sport 950S. Thanks to our buddies over at Cardo real quick.
Ducati Super Sport. With the running for my first bike. Didn't go with it because expensive. But it's a good looking bike. Who wouldn't love this thing?
Hot take. I don't like Ducati Red. I do, however, like the Arctic Silk, whatever it is that they do. Their white is on point. That's my favorite color. Fight me in the comments.
Alrighty, guys, thank you so much in the camera car, and even more so thank you Cardo for sponsoring the First Ride series. If you guys want the best Bluetooth units in the market, we got a discount code for you in the description. If you use it, it also supports the channel. So if you guys are in the market for Bluetooth, we could not recommend another company more. So guys, let's talk about the engine. This Tester Stretta engine. Very torquey, very low down where all your power is. You're not going to really want to rev this bike out very much. And if you do, you're not going to really be given a lot of power. It's going to die off relatively soon. I haven't had any issues with the engine, and I feel like it has adequate power, especially for street riding. But I will say, one of my things I'm just not really liking is how much vibration I'm getting. This bike makes me remember old Ducatis back when I started doing first rides, where they were a little harder to ride. They felt kind of raw, and they would just shake around a lot. Right now, with Ducati having their Street Fighter and their Panigale, their V2 and V4 engines, those things are phenomenal. It's making me realize how phenomenal they are by riding this around. Like I said earlier, I really just wish I had the V2 in this thing. So far, suspension has been feeling great. Like I said, this is the upgraded model, the S model. It has the adjustable suspension, so you can, you know, dial it in. We've got Öhlins front and rear, so we've got some high-quality suspension, and it has felt absolutely phenomenal. I will note that when I've really laid on the brakes on the bike, I've got no problem with the amount of braking power. The braking power feels totally adequate, but I have noticed at slower speeds, when I'm, you know, only just barely actuating the front brake lever, I'm getting a lot of braking, stop, and it's just not consistent. I don't know if there's an issue on this specific bike or if that's an issue with the model, but I just have a hard time slowly giving it brake. And it really just kind of makes it for a not smooth decel. Speaking of decel, let's talk about the engine braking, because the engine braking is relatively strong on this motorcycle. Now, some Ducatis have adjustable engine braking. I didn't notice in the menu if this one does or not. But you're going to get pretty strong engine braking. Now, I prefer that. I like engine braking really strong. But some of you guys out there might not. As far as the gears, I feel like the gears are set up really well. Every time I'm, you know, going up through the gears, like, you know, we saw on the highway, in first gear and second gear, I could go from 40 all the way to 80. And every time I've throttled this bike up, The gearing has felt really good. I feel like they have it matched really well with the power delivery of the bike. So yeah, overall, really solid other than the vibration. Yeah, it's only when I'm barely giving it, when I'm barely actuating the brakes that I feel that kind of issue. When I lay on them, I don't feel that issue. So it could be a brake pad thing, could be a rotor thing, who knows. So guys, I will note something. We are on a Ducati, and I am noticing a decent amount of heat on my legs. We do have a pretty cool day today. I think we're in like the 60s or something like that. So it doesn't feel bad, but it is the heat level that I would say if it was summertime and I was riding this bike around, it would be a little warm. I'll put it that way. It is not Panigale level hot, I will say that, but you are going to be getting a motorcycle that's going to be a little more on the warm side. I don't think that's going to be a big surprise for you Ducati guys out there, but something to keep in mind, especially if you're new to Ducati. So, you know, a little warm, nothing crazy though. This bike is such an old school Ducati. If you're barely going, and you don't have the clutch engaged, the bike just starts shaking all over the place. All right, guys, let's talk about the controls and the screen here for a minute. Very Ducati buttons. These are like the standard buttons you get on most Ducatis. They work great. They have a very premium feel. I love them personally. And what else? We got the Ducati grips. Ducati grips, absolutely S-tier grip for me. We have the levers. It looks like we are adjustable all over the place. The levers feel good. They're in a good position, but they're adjustable, like I said, so if you want to change that up, you can adjust them. That's my main primary thing. The control area here is pretty interesting how the fairing piece runs here. You don't see that a lot. Typically in the front areas, they're just kind of blacked out, but you kind of have the fairing wrap all the way around and in, which is pretty unique. I don't see that on a lot of bikes. It's kind of cool, but it also makes me feel like, is this supposed to be like that? Are we supposed to have like fairing pieces come all the way underneath the screen? It's just a little unique thing. Speaking of the screen, like I said, I've got no problems with it. It is a little small, but I can see everything fine. I got no issues. And I love the fact that I have a gas gauge. That mixed with the menu easeability, top notch for me. No problems there. We do have a quick shifter on this model. If you guys haven't noticed, I can go up and down. So we'll go down and then back up to fourth. Quick shifter feels absolutely solid. There's a good, like, decent hit when you're shifting up and down. You know, gives me that understanding as a rider. It's like, hey, you just shifted. Hey, we're in gear and all this kind of stuff. I think the quick shifter feels great. I've gone up and down the rev range. When you're kind of low in the gears and you're using the quick shifter and you're not going quick enough, there is a pretty big hit. So just keep that in mind. You're going to want to make sure you use the quick shifter when you need to use the quick shifter. Don't just be like barely going using the quick shifter. Brake lever feels like it's in a good spot. I got nothing to complain about there. Overall, controls wise, it's everything you're gonna expect and want out of a Ducati. I will say I do wish I didn't have these risers. I've kind of mentioned it a couple times in the video, but I just feel like this motorcycle wants me as the rider to be leaned forward a little more. And I get it. It's probably more comfortable for the previous owner to have a little more upright, but you know, I think Ducati did a good job with how they made this bike, and I think that does deteriorate it a little bit. So guys, up here we are going to pull off and do a little walk around of the bike. Like I said, this is a phenomenal version of the Super Sport. It is my favorite so far that Ducati has made. So we're going to do a little walk around and point out some stuff. I love the way this bike looks, so I'm super excited to check it out. Alright guys, that's what I was trying to tell you guys. Look at that fairing goes all the way up and into there. Kind of weird. Alrighty, Super Sport 950S. We've got their Arctic White or whatever the hell they call it. Very slick looking bike. So, modifications you get with the S model. You get Öhlins here in the rear. Like you can see, we have adjustable Öhlins up here in the front. We have these specific wheels with a little bar in them. They actually look just like our wheels, or very similar to our wheels on our WBR Garage CBR 1000. Those wheels look like that. There's those. Very similar looking wheels. Also, they remove the passenger pegs and they give you the seat cowl. I love the look. I love the single-sided swing arm. Ducati does such a good red. I think both in the fairings or both in the red and the white. This white looks great. And one of the cool things about having the white model is that the trellis frame, this little frame up here, the red pops so well. I think the colors are phenomenal. Another thing of note is this bike it does have a fender eliminator kit. Obviously, the bike does not come like that. Overall, I love this motorcycle's looks. I don't think I would want to do anything other than change the exhaust out. Let me turn the lights on so you guys can see those DRLs. Very Panigale vibe. I think Ducati needs to just double, triple, quadruple down with this Ducati look, or with the Panigale look. I think it is... Everybody seems to love the way the Panigales look, and I think they need to just double down on that look for any of their sport models. But I'm going to take some photos for Instagram. If you guys are on Instagram or TikTok, we are at C2Pics on Instagram, and we're at Chaseontwowheels on TikTok. We're making vertical content all over the place, so make sure to check those out. But give me 1 second, I'm going to take some photos, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, so if you're watching this first right on YouTube, those photos are up on Instagram. Go check them out and let us know you came from a YouTube video. So guys, now we're going to answer the question of who is this bike for? And before we do that, we got to do the handlebar lock test. Alright guys, handlebar lock test. Let's do this thing. Oh, look at that. The bar risers adjust the handlebars to where they actually touch the tank. That's not good. All right, well, look, it's changing the settings. Oh, no. We're just going to have to, go through with it. I'm going to be very gentle. I don't want to mess the paint up. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, we are in the bottom 50% on the turnaround, handlebar lock test. All right, well, now we know. All right, guys, let's answer that age-old question. Who is this bike for, based on some random dude that rides motorcycles for the internet? All right, guys, so who is this thing for? Who's Ducati making it for, and who would really enjoy this motorcycle? I was thinking about it while I was doing the camera car run of this bike, and I'm like, who wants this thing? I jokingly thought about it in a way of like, this bike is the old man's Panigale. You get the Panigale looks, and you get good performance, not as good as a Panigale, but you get good performance. You get the design characteristics of a Panigale, but you get it in a platform that you are not going to be regretting riding after 30 minutes to an hour. You're very much more upright. You're very much more comfortable. I could ride this bike far longer than I could ride a Panigale. It still kind of gets hot. It still is a Ducati. So if you're an older guy and you're looking at all these Panigales and you're like, man, those things look so good, but my body is not able to handle it, this is your motorcycle. For the S model, it's going to cost you just there somewhere around 17 grand. Honestly, compared to the other bikes in the market, it's like the other Ducatis in the market, the pricing's really not that crazy. If you're asking me if I want a comfortable Ducati and I've got around the 17 grand mark, I'm almost 100% going to go with the Street Fighter V2. I believe the pricing on the Street Fighter V2 is very similar to this, and I love the way it looks more, and I'm just as comfortable on it. I kind of prefer the handlebar over these kind of upper clip-ons. I don't know if I can recommend this over a V2 Street Fighter, only unless you're going to do a lot of touring, but then you don't have cruise control. So it's like, there's a lot of things to weigh out. I don't think this is a bad bike by any means. I'm not a huge fan of all the shaking. If you want a old school feeling Ducati with all the new school traction control and all the electronics, this might be your bike. Looks wise, I think it's phenomenal though, and I think whoever buys it, as long as you're looking for the things I've described, I think you're going to have a good time. I think you'll enjoy the hell out of this bike. Other than the shaking, this is one of the better Ducatis that you could literally daily, you know, ride to work every day and back. It'd be an actual great bike for that. So guys, that's about all I got for the Ducati Super Sport 950S. Before we get out of here, got to give a shout out to Mountain Motorsports. That's the dealership we started at. If it wasn't for them, I would not be able to do this First Ride Series. That's where we get all the bikes. So if you guys are in the market for your next motorcycle, check out Mountain. They got like 5 or 6 locations up here in North Georgia. Go in, check out what they got, sit on some bikes, find the right bike for you. And if you check them out with that link in the description, you guessed it, you get a discount. But guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned something. And if you did, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for way more motorcycle content. I'm Chaseontwowheels, I'll see you on the next one. Later. Outro crew, thank you for getting to the end of the video. Make sure to put OC in your comment down below so I know you made it. And guys, let me know, are you going Super Sport 950S, or are you just going to go with the Street Fighter V2? You get a couple more plush things on the Super Sport, but there's no way I'm choosing a Super Sport over that V2 Street Fighter. Guys, I love you for getting to the end of the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.